So welcome, welcome. We've had a wonderful response. I think we've got 125 people in our little WhatsApp group from all over the world. So it always blows me away, really, to think that so many people out there are worried about their drinking, just as I was, and Monica was, and all of our cheerleaders. And well done, just well done for signing up for Reset, for joining us, and for coming to this Zoom live, because you could have watched the recording tomorrow, obviously, but I think coming to it live shows a different level of commitment, and you will get as much from this week as you put into it. And being here with us live is putting a lot in. And I think that's the hardest bit of all, to accept that, yes, we've got a problem with alcohol, reach out, find someone that can help us, and then actually pitch up. It's a quotation that I like to use, which is, I think it was by Woody Allen, actually, who's probably been cancelled, but it's still a good quote. He says 80% of success is showing up. And there's truth in that, if you think about it. And thank you for the engagement as well. There's just been a non-stop conversation going on for days. And huge thank you, as ever, to our tribe ambassadors and cheerleaders who are giving their free time to help you guys. And I think that speaks for itself, that when we do get sober, we just want to pay it forward because we feel so much better. We just want to share with other people and get them to this wonderful place as well that we call Soberland. So over the last few years, I was counting them up today, we've run 20 resets. And that means that literally hundreds of people have managed to quit drinking just by attending a 1-week reset, a free reset. So you're already putting yourself out there, you're being vulnerable, you're sharing your struggles, and that's what makes all the difference, because it shows that you're ready to make a change. We've got a lovely international group as ever. I just noted a few of your comments that I liked. I just looked at the end of the conversation stream, and I was very impressed with Kathy from South Africa. I'm not sure if she's here, but she poured 3 bottles of wine down the drain. I think that's admirable, Kathy. Well done. We always say, because people often say, oh, but I've got so much very good wine in my house. We just say, give it to someone you don't like, because it's poison after all. Denise has got out her journal. So we've got Patty, our journaling teacher, here, so she'll be very pleased to hear that. So Denise dug out an old journal and she's planning to write up her notes from the week, which is a fantastic idea. I would recommend that you all do that. And Denise is also planning a bit of decluttering, which is also a good idea. So if you've got stuff like that, chores that you've been putting off and putting off because it's so much easier to sink onto your sofa with a bottle of wine, just make a list and get those boring things done this week. You're going to feel so good by the end of the week, because you'll feel the alcohol free will start kicking in. You'll feel so much better, and you've done all those pesky chores. And then Valerie, I think Valerie went out last night. Is she here? She went out last night, found it quite hard not to drink. The first time you socialize without alcohol, it's hard. But she did it. She pushed through and felt proud of herself this morning, as she should. I said to her that it happens. She said she was suffering from FOMO. And that happens. We do feel really uncomfortable for a while. And I'm glad that Lynette's here, because our coach always says to us, just learn to get comfortable with being uncomfortable. And that's fantastic advice, because being uncomfortable isn't going to kill us, but alcohol might. Just think of that next time you're uncomfortable, because that uncomfortable feeling, it will pass. And then, yes, Suzanne from Ireland, she loves the tracker. Yeah, we love our trackers as well. You're going to meet Lucy on Tuesday. She used to be an engineer, and she designs all these fabulous trackers for us. And it makes a huge difference. They seem a bit old school, because I know we can all get trackers on our phones. But there's something about having a piece of paper that you can color in your alcohol-free days. You can have it on the wall, have it on the fridge. Maybe the kids join in watching it with you. And it just gives you real motivation watching those days stack up. And of course, we have 1 year trackers. So if you on and off the bus, then at least you can see what the big picture is. Because it's giving up alcohol, it's a bit like dieting, isn't it? In that if you've been good for a few days and then you eat far too much one night and you think, oh, that's it, I'm hopeless, I'm giving up. It's like that with drinking as well. But if you've got your sober stretches, as we call them, marked on a tracker, you can just watch how many days are stacking up. And what normally happens if you're doing the work is those sober stretches will gradually get longer and longer. So thank you for all the engagement. We've been reading it with great interest. What did I want to say? I've got a few notes because I don't like forgetting. I've got so much to tell you. I will control myself. I won't go on too long, I promise. Yeah, again, I mentioned this earlier, but the fact that you've shown that live on a Sunday afternoon shows that you're learning to put yourself first, because obviously we saw in a group people saying, oh, I can't do this because I'm going here, going there. And it's difficult, but we have to really make it a priority if we're serious and we want to make this change. And we have to tell our family and friends, maybe you don't want to tell them exactly what you're doing, but just say, I'm not going to be as available as usual this week. Yeah, we've got a lady that did our Breaking Free course, Grania, and she told her family that she would be disappearing into her bedroom with her laptop every evening for an hour, and she wasn't to be disturbed. And her family were horrified to start with, but after a few days, they got used to it and they left her in peace. So you have to train your loved ones and your friends just to give you a little bit of space this week. Because as women, we're not good at putting ourselves first. And sometimes that leads to over drinking, because personally, I was so exhausted at the end of the day, I would just fall on my bottle of wine to refuel and give me a bit of energy to do the next bit of the day. So what I want to do is introduce myself. I'm Janet Gorond, and I founded Tribe Sober in 2015, which is the year that I stopped drinking. We have helped thousands of people over the last decade or so, and more people are wanting a healthier lifestyle. And the health risks of alcohol are out there in the public domain now. When I got breast cancer in 2006, and there was no information about the fact that it is linked quite strongly now to alcohol, I didn't stop drinking, I carried on drinking. But now the evidence is out there. And in fact, alcohol's linked to 7 types of cancer and more than 60 diseases. So it's madness to drink, really, especially as we get older, because we're more fragile. And what happens often is that we don't realize how dependent we've become until we try to cut down, and then we get on the moderation roundabout. The usual pattern, it happened to me, we start in our teens, experimenting and drink in our 20s, 30s, 40s, because it's fun and we're quite social at that age. But as we get into our 40s and 50s, or as we get into midlife, where most of us are working mums, I was, and the pressure is huge and the stress comes, and then we start using alcohol for self-medication, and then it becomes something darker. And that's definitely the time we need to think about making a change, when we realize that we're using alcohol to alleviate stress, because it doesn't anyway. It might push it away for a few hours, but it'll be back. So many people who join Tribe Sober, they've been hopping on and off the wagon for years. And I did for at least a decade. The whole of my 50s, I spent trying and failing to moderate. And it was a difficult, miserable, depressing time, really. And that happens because we've all got this idea that it's about willpower. Oh, I don't have any willpower, I can't do this. And we think that's a character flaw if we don't have willpower. But it's not about willpower. And tomorrow in the first training session, I'm going to explain what it is about. And it's about a mindset. It's about seeing alcohol in a completely different way. So if you guys don't know 𝐶𝐸, and you're watching this and you're thinking, who is this woman anyway? I explained earlier, I set up 𝐶𝐸. But let me tell you what I'm not. I'm not a doctor and I'm not a therapist. I am a qualified recovery coach, and I've had 25 years experience in corporates of training and development and coaching. And more importantly than any of that, I'm someone who's struggled with alcohol dependence for many years. And eventually I found my way out of that trap, because it is a trap. And my life changed so dramatically, and I felt so much happier and healthier that I became quite passionate about sobriety. And I decided that I was going to spend the rest of my life helping people to do what I'd done. And that's why I set up 𝐶𝐸. And you might be asking yourself, what is 𝐶𝐸 anyway? I used to say, because it grew organically, we started off with a few physical workshops, and then people want to stay in contact. So we set up a membership, and we have challenges and training programs. So I used to say to people, oh, we do this and we do that and we do the other, and we have a podcast. But having seen so many people change their lives dramatically over the last decade, I now say quite shamelessly and proudly that 𝐶𝐸 is a place of transformation. And I truly believe that. It's a place where you can learn not only to quit drinking, but then how to thrive in your alcohol-free life, how to really enjoy that alcohol-free life. Because there's no point being sober if you're miserable, is there, after all? And there's so much more to recovery than not drinking. We always say that the not drinking part is about 10% of recovery. And the other 90% is about creating an alcohol-free lifestyle that you genuinely enjoy. It's about building a life that you don't want to escape from, because when we drink a lot, we're escaping from our lives. And that's what we help people do at 𝐶𝐸. So what else might you be asking yourself? You might be asking, oh, is it really worth it? Why should I bother to spend time going through this content that this woman's going to give me this week? I've got better things to do with my time. There are so many benefits. And the first few months, few weeks are tough. I would never lie to anyone about that. And that's why we're here. We want to help you to get through that sticky bit. And some of you have already clocked up some alcohol-free time, so that's brilliant. But if you push through and you get some support, you can do it. You'll have better mental health, better physical health. You'll reduce your anxiety. You'll feel happier. You'll have more time, more money, more energy. I could talk to you all night long about the benefits of sobriety, but you've got people here that are ambassadors, cheerleaders, so it's probably better that you hear it from them as well. So now you might be thinking, that sounds all right, but how do I get there? As I said, you've already taken the hardest step by accepting that you might have a problem, you found us, and you've signed up for Reset. So please just give us your attention and time over these 7 days, all the attention and time that you can. One of my favorite quotes is by Martin Luther King, and he says, take the first step on the staircase, even if you can't see where the staircase is going. So in other words, have faith. And Reset is your first step on the staircase. So trust those of us that have climbed the staircase before. There's a beautiful destination waiting for you at the top. We always do a poll at the beginning of Reset, asking people how they feel. And last time I glanced at it, I found 12 of you feeling determined, which is wonderful. 8 of you were excited, even better. And 3 of them were curious. So that's all good emotions to be feeling at this stage. And 9 of you were anxious, which is fair enough, but to try to shift that anxiety into excitement. And if you can't manage to be excited, just be curious. Have an open mind and go through the content day by day. Because whatever happens this week, you're not going to fail. We never talk about failure at Tribe Sober. You'll either succeed, you might get 7 alcohol-free days, which is fantastic, or you might have a few slip-ups, and then you will learn. So you'll either succeed or you learn. The most important thing, if you do have a slip-up, is to tell us. Tell us on the group, tell us at the Zoom meeting, and then we'll help you unpack that. Why did it happen? What can you learn from it? What can we all learn from it? Because that's the wonderful thing about having a community. We all learn from each other all the time. And failure, if you want to call it failure, is so necessary to learning. I like the analogy of a baby learning to walk. How many times does he fall over before he can walk? And he doesn't worry about being a failure. He knows that he's getting there. So failure isn't the opposite of success. It's the pathway to success. So forget about failing. You're going to be fine. You're either going to get a clear alcohol-free week or you're going to learn a lot. So please feel anxious or curious, because this isn't a problem you've got. It's an opportunity. It's an opportunity to completely change your life in a dramatic way. There's a book that we love at Tribe Sober called We Are the Luckiest. It's by Laura McCowan. And her premise is that those of us that have had an addiction of whatever kind have been forced to the wall. We've been forced to examine our life, to reconstruct our life. And that makes us the lucky ones, because most of those normal drinkers we've been jealous of all our lives, they don't get to do that. They just trundle along, drinking a little bit here, a little bit there. But we've examined our lives and changed them for the better. There's only one thing wrong with Reset Week, in my opinion, and that is that it's free, which means that you might not give it the attention it deserves. Because when people pay, they pay attention. But we want to keep it free because we've seen so many people benefiting from it, either gaining just from the week or moving into one of our programs. And it's a wonderful way for people to get to know us and to get a flavor for our approach, because our approach is very different from AA. I went to AA and I was determined to design something very different. So what's going to happen in Reset Week? How are you going to pay attention? How are you going to take the first step on the staircase? Please download and print the alcohol-free tracker, which Monica posted today. Monica's our community manager, by the way. She's the one that's keeping the show on the road here. If you can't see the tracker, then just shout and Monica will find it for you. And if you look at that tracker, it's for people that are overwhelmed with the idea of 7 days without alcohol. Lucy's broken it down into hours, I think, this time. So you're going to get a few hours a day because you'll be asleep. So if you think of today as day 1, how many hours can you fill in already as alcohol-free? At the end of every day, just mark up your alcohol-free hours. And when you wake up in the morning, you've been asleep. So mark up those hours alcohol-free. And regarding the reset content, we recommend that you allocate about an hour a day to do the task. Every morning at 9 a.m. SA time, Monica will post a worksheet for you. So that's a task, and you're going to download that task, do the worksheet. And the idea behind these tasks is that they will help you. They'll give you prompts to think about your relationship with alcohol, to unpack it a little bit and to analyze it. And you need to do that before you can make a change. And then every day we post a podcast. So they're great for multitasking. You can listen to those while you're out and about. Every day we've got a theme. So Monica will be explaining what that theme is in the morning. And make sure you've always got a quick lit book on the go. There's so many great books out there. I just mentioned another one, didn't I? We Are the Luckiest. But we recommend that you start off with maybe the Sober Diaries if you haven't read any of these kind of books. The Sober Diaries, which is by a lovely English lady called Claire Pooley. And then there's The Naked Mind by Annie Grace, which is a bit of a classic, and that ties in very nicely with what my talk tomorrow. But make sure you've got something and read it before you go to sleep, and then your subconscious will be absorbing it. On Friday, I'll be offering you an opportunity to carry on working with us if you've decided that you like us by then. Yeah, actually, that is my biggest sobriety tip of all. I always say that if you want to get sober, you need to find your people. It's practically impossible to do it on your own, and most of you have probably already tried. I know I tried for a decade. So what you need to do is find your people. You need to find a community that you can connect with, a community that you feel comfortable with, that you can be honest with, that you can be vulnerable with. That is the key to the whole thing. So by the end of the week, you will know whether we are your people or not. We probably will have vanished if we're not by then, but I'm sure that some of you will relate to our style and the content that we're giving out. So on Friday, I'll be talking about our Breaking Free program, which we run 3 times a year, and we take just 20 people on each program. So if you think you might be interested and you want to get this party started, then you can go to 𝐿𝐸𝐵𝐷.com, and on the homepage, you'll see a banner there. So click on the banner, read about it. If you click sign up, you can see what the price is in your country, because we've got a multi-currency plugin thingy that'll tell you. And it is open for enrollment now. But even if you don't want to carry on working with us, I promise you're going to get so much value out of doing Reset this week. So the topic of the 5 talks, so we've got a talk all the weekdays from Monday to Friday. And tomorrow it's about mindset change. Tuesday, Lucy will be talking to you about finding your whys. Why do you want to do this? So important to analyze that. The 3rd talk, I'll be talking about escaping the moderation trap. And on Thursday, Lynette will be talking to you, our recovery coach. She'll be talking to you about how to navigate early sobriety, that difficult bit. And then on Friday, I'll tell you more about the Breaking Free program. So I think, just scrolling down my notes. Oh yes, mustn't forget this one. Exciting news about Breaking Free. Now, we've obviously had loads of people that have been through Breaking Free. I think some of them might be in this meeting, some of the cheerleaders. And one of the ladies that is a graduate from Breaking Free, and she's one of our ambassadors now, she realized that we were doing Reset this week and that we'd be launching the next Breaking Free 10, we call it, because it's our 10th program. And she said, I would like to sponsor someone. So she is going to pay for someone to do Breaking Free. So to decide who we're going to give her a very generous present to, we'll be expecting the person that is interested to come every day to our live Zoom, and obviously engage on the group. And then maybe at the end of the week, I'll be asking anyone that's interested just to write an email about why they think they deserve it, why they want to do it. And then I will pass them on to her, and I think it's only right that she should choose. But it's so very generous of her. And sadly, she wants to be anonymous, so I can't even tell you who it is. Yeah, so welcome to Reset. Stay connected, do the work. It might just change your life, like it's changed so many of our lives here.